So we want to wait until it's that one because that one's really funny. I want to use it for. I haven't forgotten about it.
Okay.
I'm waiting for that one though, because there's like a few every year that we do. That's just me and him. Okay. Then I want to share.
Oh my god.
We're gonna be good. It's gonna be great.
So we want people to register until like 11, and then just put it on Twitter. The link. Or
I'm thinking like 11:10.
And we are recording this too, right?
Yes.
This is cool.
We're doing a lot of things for backup in case we goof it up because this is new and there's a definite chance we could. Watch question mark V equals HNEMMWN.
Fonts are all changed. Oops, no they're not.
It looks like that's gonna work. So
This this color scheme looks so much better on that.
yeah, it definitely will help a whole bunch. I can see you and John, but can you hear us?
We're not going to pantomime this whole thing.
No, but now, yeah.
And
Darren?
there is a slight delay, so like if you're asking a question for people to respond to, it won't be immediate.
It's like almost a 20-second delay, which is why we can't listen to ourselves.
Which is fine.
Because we don't need to listen to ourselves. Because we're not doing anything remote.
And even the questions, you just serve as a conduit for the questions.
Yep.
And
Is that... Honestly...
change this background to
Can't
black.
really... Okay.
Non-black.
I see you and John. You're on the right, typing, talking. Do you want me to type in the chat? Yes, I can't hear you.
Okay.
Okay, Darren, so now I need you to... Yay! I need you to, if you could, with your fancy PowerPoint, Darren, make a slide with that link to the video and then send it to me so that I can put it up on GoToWebinar. That would be amazing.
This is starting to sound like a scavenger hunt.
Go here and do this, and then go here and do
You
that,
can do this.
and finally you'll be able to see our webcast.
Do you want me to send him this, and then you can just put the link below it?
Oh yeah, send him that.
Yeah, double and triple check that link.
Yeah, it showed up as a, you could see it. Taryn's like, oh yeah, that would explain why you're not responding to me. Got it.
Well, that's just one reason. All right, here we go. Let's do this.
Okay, 12 minutes in.
And Bree.
I forget you can hear us.
He says slight, yes. Like 30 seconds, so it's a while.
Think about it. YouTube is probably processing it and reposting it. And
You wouldn't believe, like we've been trying to do a live YouTube video for a long time. It is so complicated.
This makes it way easier.
It does, because it's basically like what we wanted, where you just plug it in and you do it. Otherwise, it was like you convert it from here to there, and then you plug it into this other machine, and then that makes it so you can go live here. Okay.
so I would say as long as he is able to hear us and see us, I think we are doing really good.
Golden.
It's an expensive camera.
It is.
Yeah, but it's that means we can also leave you the other one to do stuff that you wanted to do.
Yeah, well, the other thing is whenever we actually do our Hack and Fest, we have 2 of those. We can literally zoom in on the screen, zoom back out, like we can move around the room.
Well, we're not doing any video for Wild West Hack and Fest.
Oh, that's right, Adrian's doing it.
Goodbye video. All in all, it was probably way more expensive for us to do it in-house.
Yeah, when you consider how many times I had to go to.
I just can't.
Poor Bree.
I just can't believe the guy's like, yeah, this is really hard. No.
It was really hard. Oh, it was super hard.
Yeah, but if that's your job, that'd be like me doing a pen test and going, oh,
This is
no, I
hard.
got into this, and it's way harder than I thought it was going to be, so I'm not going to do it.
No, the worst part was when I first asked him, I said, hey, we were wondering if you'd still be interested. He said, oh, a little trickier than you thought.
Yeah.
Oh, he was so
I
condescending.
still wanted to say that when he returned it back to me.
Oh, it was a little trickier than you thought.
Oh, well.
Oh my goodness. Why does GoToWebinar have to re-download every single time you have an event?
All right, can I see the screen?
Yes. Did he say if it looks kind of fuzzy?
Oh. Karen, does it look fuzzy? Does this look good?
That's so much clearer.
Does that work?
That's the wrong way.
Okay. Hey, we have one already on at 10:12.
Hey, for YouTube or for the?
GoToWebinar. No. Oh, and also you can see how many people are watching there.
Oh, sweet. Let me go get my chopstick.
There.
Yeah.
Oh wait, that's my head.
Just a little bit of creamer that's on the counter.
She's right though, the presentation does look a little bit fuzzy, but I think that that's okay because it clears up once we zoom in on it.
Okay, I don't want to show my screen. This could be weird. And the wait begins. Okay. If I'm a presenter, the screen does look fuzzy. The white is really powerful on John's screen.
Yeah, I've got it turned down about as much as I'm going to do right now, Darren. Sorry. We'll have to adjust
Zoomed
it.
in looks fuzzy.
Yeah, there's not much I can do.
So, Karen, what we're gonna probably have to do is cut out the slides in this video when we do it, fix it in post. Can you read the slides? I guess that's the more important thing.
It's really fuzzy.
We might have to dispense with the slides.
All right. No, we're going to keep the slides. I'm working on it.
What if we just keep the slides after?
Because people are going to ask, no, just give me a second. Okay, just give me a moment.
No, we don't have slides, sorry. Ooh, he showed
Can
me
we
a screenshot.
can we put a link to the slides in GoToWebinar?
No, he said he didn't, we could, but he doesn't want to do that because it's too, it doesn't make sense unless you're following along.
Right.
I'm working on it. Just give me a moment.
Here, how
I'm
do
making the
we-
font bigger on some slides so it's a little bit easier
How
to see.
do we, I don't want to show my screen, I want the handout.
Okay, that's a little bit better. I'm just making font bold.
Okay.
And I'm going to darken it. Because I hate myself.
It's all good, it's all good. It's still only 10:15.
When do we start, 11?
Yeah, but we're starting at 10:30.
The first webcast I ever helped with was the one Kent and Jordan's first one.
Oh, right.
And it was like down to the last 30 seconds before.
Because we were like, don't do a live demo, Jordan. You need to have a backup. No, it's going to be fine. Oh, wait, it's not fine. Oh, wait. That was crazy stressful.
Yes.
What about the Brian Furman one? Hey, could you do this? Yeah, I can try to do that on the fly.
I don't think we were there. I think it was just you and him.
It was a train wreck.
Was
I
that
mean,
the
it was
hardware
cool
hacking
'cause-
one?
No, the hardware hacking one went really well.
Oh, the one where we had Brian Furman doing a demo and there was like long pauses of silence.
Of him coding.
Oh.
Like,
Yeah, that was a
literally.
little bit like rough.
Okay, let me try this.
Brian Furman, we love you.
There was the people that, in all honesty, there were people like, that was awesome.
We love seeing him in action. Okay, so
All right.
Still fuzzy?
Yes.
Is that when you zoom in on it or just from far
I
away?
want to try moving it to the front and see if that works a little bit better. I'm trapped. You just set it straight down. No, set it straight down on the ground. Okay.
okay, so he said it's not clear. If you read the slide, it might work. We're gonna try something else.
I will read the slides. I will do that. Let's see
So-
if that's any better. Okay, so it looks like it's picking up a little bit. That actually looks a little clearer. Can Darren tell me if that looks a little bit better? Still, my white slides are just crazy.
Yeah.
I would say it's not that much of a difference. No, these look good. The big, huge font ones look much better down below. Can you move it, the Black Hills Information Security side? So,
Two, but let's.
yeah, so you have two sides, Security Weekly side,
Yes.
Black Hills InfoSec side. Go ahead and move it towards the Black Hills InfoSec
he
slide.
said it's the same. Where?
No, it's fine. Yeah, just put it back up here. Sorry,
You're good.
it was an idea. Okay, so what if we do this? I just removed
Is that
a
gonna
tremendous amount of
Get
text.
in the way of your arm?
Nope, it's gonna be fine.
Okay.
Is there a way that we can shine a light on the camera? It looks like it's a low light mode and it's trying to amplify the light. Oh, yeah, because it has that autofocus. So I don't think there's a way, there's not a way to change the autofocus because we don't want it to change.
Is that when we zoom in?
Getting closer.
We are go.
You close, Bree?
I think so. Last little adjustments.
Oh, can you grab my phone from wherever it is, Bree?
Yeah.
It might be on that table in the kitchen where my coat is.
This one's yours?
Yes, thank you.
Do you care if the blog post goes 5 minutes before 11 so I can just make sure the link works?
Okay, that looks better. Okay. So now you can read the goofy little text that I have, but I need the font to be size 30 minimum. This bold 30. And I'll tell them the slides will be posted. The rules are hard to see.
We have a blog post with the rules.
They're there. We can just give them that.
Yeah. Okay, Darren is a presenter.
And our logo, unfortunately, with the white one, it just like screams on the screen.
That's fine, that's fine. It doesn't have to be on every page. We have, curiously enough, John, we have this logo behind us.
That works out really well.
Yep.
That looks better. Okay.
And we can fix these slides when we put them in post with their regular old white on, black text on white.
Yep. Now that I've got a font that works, that I can actually sharpen it up, this isn't going to take me too long.
Okay.
I'm sure there's still going to be people that complain about fuzziness, but they're not going to be able to say, I can't read it at all.
Well, it's our first time doing this, so.
Right.
Now when we go to end it, Sarah, do you want me to end it on the iPad or do you want to end it on YouTube?
What?
When we go to end it, do you want to end it on yours or do you want me to end it on? Let's have you do it actually, because North Dakota is still counting down.
Okay. I was like, this means you have to share your screen, you can't do any work. And he's like, nah, I have 3 screens.
All right. That should be better. Okay, Darren, I'm gonna go through these slides. This one's gonna be a little bit harsh because it's funny, it actually looks better on the big screen. There we go. So that's a little bit fuzzy, but once we get into the slides themselves, it looks a little bit better and you can actually read it now, which is nice. Ooh, let's not do that. That actually helped a lot on that.
Oh, it's still delayed, never mind. I still can't see it.
So now you should be able to at least read what's on the slide.
More or less.
That's what I get for hiring perfectionists. It could be better.
Like I can see definitely like brought to you by, I can.
Yeah, this doesn't work,
Why?
that one.
Why do you, yeah, I can see that. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, now I can see you tilt the thing back.
Okay.
And it's good where it is when you don't tilt it back because
Yeah, it
you
doesn't.
don't get that glare,
Don't get the
so
glare.
it's good. It looks a little crooked for some reason, but I think that's just the angle.
Yeah.
But it's fine.
This is
It'll
crooked.
work.
That's not. But then we got the glare.
It's
so
gonna be fine because we can splice it in.
yeah.
Our video guru over here.
She's like having another nervous breakdown.
Yeah, she is, but it's gonna be okay. Okay, how do we go live on GoToWebinar?
Go to webinar.
Yeah.
Oh, go to webinar. We've done that a lot.
I know. Why do I not see
Let me
that?
see it. It should be right up here.
Or maybe we're already live.
So you are recording right now.
Mm-hmm. No, I don't want to share my screen.
You are sharing.
No, I'm not yet.
I think you're like me. We usually run it on like a Mac or a Linux system.
I don't know. No one sees.
No one sees your screen.
Right, and I don't want them to see my screen because I've got to go to YouTube. So I want them to see. Here. Maybe we are going. So I'll go live with
Oh,
this.
it could be that you're live, but people can't see your screen because you're not sharing. So we're live, but not sharing.
Hey, so there's like a few of you on already. Hello, and we're trying something new today. Can you hear me?
Such
If
a
you can,
minefield.
Go ahead and type in the question box or the chat box, and we will. Okay, cool. Now, sweet. You guys can hear me fine. Okay, so now I'm gonna turn my thing on mute in a second, and Darren, my trusty assistant here, is going to share his screen with the video for us to go live on YouTube. So there's another link here, and I know this is really stupid and confusing, but we are doing this new thing, and we kind of decided to do it after we'd already set up the GoToWebinar. So you're here, which is awesome. Now I'm going to transfer you over to YouTube's. So go ahead and share, Darren, whenever you're ready, your screen, and then that will be the link. And I also will put the link into the chat, but I'm not sure if it will show up for people that are coming later.
So phones. My phone's in the Breeze box.
I still don't see your screen, Darren.
Breeze blocks.
Breeze
Okay.
blocks. Bring my phone
Alright,
is in.
so we are live.
We're live on GoToWebinar. Keep your weird comments to yourself.
Bring my phone is with your face.
It's Brenda, bro.
Do you want me to grab it for you or?
Brenda Jones, no, it's not.
Okay,
Hang on. I'm gonna run off for another
You're gonna eat a
64
banana?
seconds.
Yeah, you're gonna
No,
have
the
to-
banana's for scale.
oh, okay.
What did you ask me?
I'm gonna have to switch places with you. Here.
Where am I going? Just go to the corner.
How to
Go to the
share-
corner.
How to share ISIS. I give, just in you, okay, Darren, go ahead and share your screen. I still don't see your screen. Does anybody see Darren's screen?
Can't we lock that for me? I'm nervous with this guy.
You really shouldn't be.
I am though.
He's like the least.
What's the workstation attendance policy and procedure here?
Wait, is this a Cali?
I'm not.
You don't have a Linux package ready to go on Rubber
You can
Ducky?
see us on YouTube. So now.
We need to make sure that people can actually hear us on YouTube, but we've had Darren on YouTube for a while.
Oh, look at Darren's cute.
Careful of that
family
wire.
picture. Okay.
Is that on?
Yeah.
Don't. Oh, Darren.
Yeah,
okay,
be
so
careful.
don't share the YouTube video. Share the slide link.
Yes, that's a good idea.
Okay. This looks like a real studio with all the wires running around.
I know it
Oh
does.
my gosh, what a big mess.
Who the hell wanted this done this way? I swear. I swear. You brought a banana
For scale.
for scale.
Okay. Yeah.
All
yeah,
right.
Jeff,
There we
that's
go.
terrible. Okay, so make that big, Darren. Oh my gosh,
So,
there's so many
my-
parts to this
Am I sitting
structure.
there?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
he just wanted to get in.
I just need to get
He
to
needed
my
get
corner.
in. Okay.
These wonderful laptops.
Oh, I need my phone.
Okay, now I'm gonna go on mute from GoToWebinar, and Darren, you leave that up.
Can I see what we have on GoToWebinar? What does it say?
Just a, can you make that slide, Darren, the whole screen? Like just
Holy
that one?
crap, that's not, can we make a tiny URL of that? So people don't have to type it?
They got there. They'll figure it out. We love you. All right.
Right, check Twitter too, because we're gonna tweet it out.
T.co. T.co.
You grab my cell phone, it's plugged in on the shelves over in the corner. I need it for the 20-sided dice.
Okay, can we have that iPad because we're not gonna.
I don't need it anymore.
Oh,
I
you're
think
not
we
gonna
got it
do that.
all set up. I think that we're doing really good.
Can I buy a case for
Is
that?
it John's phone?
I don't know. This is our other
plugged in.
Bravo Tech Fest Wi-Fi. Okay.
Don't let me handle it, I'll break it.
Oh,
There's no case on it.
It's
That'll shatter the
it's gonna
screen.
be destroyed.
Was your appointment cancellation not?
So we still have
calculated
20 minutes
properly?
left.
Yeah, but we're supposed to like
Be
do our
bantering?
thing.
Okay.
Banter, banter.
Look at our fancy cutout.
Oh yay!
On the
Where were you?
wire?
Who's arts and crafts?
Thank you, guys.
Okay, so hi everybody. Thank you for coming to
I
YouTube.
don't know what they can see.
They can see everything.
All right. Oh crap, that's scary.
Well, not
Don't
everything.
trip over the wires.
Okay.
Okay.
Hopefully it's not
Jeez,
fuzzy.
I'm
Just-
clumsy.
It's not our camera. So this gives me
This is the camera you need to look at,
Oh,
not that one.
oh, I didn't even see that one over there.
Are you recording anyway?
Forget that I said that.
yeah, I think we are recording
We're now
right
live.
now.
Shouldn't we have subtitles up there somewhere?
Oh, like SNL
Subtitles.
cards?
Yeah.
Camera, look at the red dot. Hi everybody.
I'm kinda close to it.
It's cozy and it's gonna get real warm. Real
Yeah, I
quick.
know.
It's already warm.
All right. So
Not
let
that
me
I'm
know
looking
whenever
at
we
myself,
tweet this
but I'm
out.
looking at myself.
Yeah.
Let me know whenever I tweet this out, or we tweet this out, so I can tweet it out to everybody.
Okay.
So
you
you've
can
got a
just
clock
redo
there,
this.
which is great.
Here, can I
It's
take a
all
picture
in
of
an
this?
hour.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to hold really still because my camera. Slow. Just hold that pose. Worst.
I'm a child.
I'm so sorry. We have to do it one more time, Jordan. Please keep it
I
together.
heard you because you were the mature one.
Wait.
You can use my camera too.
There we go.
If you
All
want.
right.
You hired me because I'm mature. Did you know I
We're
have
supposed to
4
hide these.
children and
We don't want these
am one of them?
Aw.
I'm so sorry.
This is,
so
um,
sorry.
Delayed a little bit.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
don't look at this.
Yeah, don't look
Get
at the YouTube where
confused.
you get like all disoriented and confused.
Where am I in space sometimes?
Holy crap, that's like 30 seconds behind. It's like a time warp.
Okay, so.
John, don't invest in Bitcoin.
Oh, what's going to happen to cryptocurrencies during the next market correction?
I don't know. I'm actually going to start investing in Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies here shortly. Because the 19,000 showed the absolute ceiling that it can go, and we're about to find where the floor is. Because they're not going away. I think they're. Why are we talking about serious things right now?
Do we need to start mining?
My bad. I was
our
curious your
movie
opinion.
thing.
I think a lot of people are interested in your opinion on that, but
Hey. Magneto says yes, it is.
Oh,
This
Jeff's
is-
on. Awesome.
This is also weird because we don't get people's real names. We get their weird handles, which I don't recognize because I'm
Yeah,
used
I
to people's
do.
real name.
Magneto
It's like
417.
you scroll 26. Tell Tim I said hi. You know, it's just.
Okay.
Are you using Shutter for your screenshots?
Absolutely.
Isn't that like,
Oh my
Man.
gosh, it
Awesome
is
thing.
such an amazing tool.
I
My absolute favorite.
wanted to tell them about your class.
Feel
I
free.
still don't have
Swing.
any information on it.
Yeah, we don't either.
I know. That's okay though. I have
I'm completely not
confidence.
affiliated with this class whatsoever. I'm beholden to the Sands Institute for now and forever.
We, however,
Sparkle, sparkle,
are
shine,
beholden to
shine.
no one except
Wow,
you.
wow,
Does that make us?
This is
You're
what
fired.
happens.
Are we
This is what
grandfathered
happens.
into the?
This is what
program?
happens whenever I have a COO. I'm like, Jonathan, no. But it sounds like it's an interesting class, of which I know nothing at all about.
Good.
There we go.
We really don't either.
That's-
Just to be honest with you.
That's a
Really
lie.
selling this.
That's
What,
a
Selling
lie.
it so
No,
well.
we're ready.
You don't have to be ready now.
No,
but
we
you
are ready
will
now.
be ready. Yeah,
We're ready now.
You will be ready. He says, Jeff says, non-believers or non-believers.
Oh, I am definitely a believer.
Is it too
You
late
do
to say
have-
sorry?
Is that a song?
It is.
That's a little disturbing.
Can we
that
play it in the
John knows.
background quietly?
Is it
He
too
sings
late?
like I do.
In a sexy falsetto. Everybody loves it.
Actually, it wasn't my falsetto. but-
Sexy. Oh, you
Whatever.
have a sexy
Very-
falsetto. Let's
No.
hear it.
Very impressive. We need another song.
Tiptoe through the tulips. All right.
Hey, we have 5 people watching.
Live. Such.
The witty pre-show banter.
Avant-Gardner.
Nice.
Did you ever listen to Rock Garden Tour?
I did because I was like when we were
Oh,
kind
that's
of trying
awesome.
to find
It's
music
gonna be so
for
good.
It is
Wildwood
a South-
Sacrifice.
Yeah.
But
I have a Cali background. Does that mean I run Cali?
It does. Yeah. No, it just means just hold the background. Let's do the Kali meta packages.
Oh yeah.
look at the dot. You guys.
Yeah, we got that
gotta-
over
we have to
there.
remember to look out.
Every once in a while.
We tend to look at each other a lot.
Well, we like to.
I think that that's
look at each other
fine
and
as long as we do it like news show because we're still kind of turned towards the camera. You don't want to do this. That would be bad.
Oh, this is true.
Blocking,
awkward.
blocking and tackling. No, those are two different things. All right.
Careful of the thing behind you.
It's a
Am
little
I blocking it?
fragile.
Do I need
No,
to
no, no.
scoot
no,
to
it's
one
fine.
side or the
Just
other?
don't.
But when you
I could,
It's me.
I
I
could
do this.
slink down.
Just don't
And every
smack
time I
it.
do that, your wife is like, "Oh my God, he's gonna break it."
Cut that out. Mostly her.
Spent so much time on that.
We
with
carefully
the
X-Acto knifed it out.
Did you?
Yes.
I wondered because
It was a
it's
lot of work.
beautiful.
Yeah,
It
it's
sure is.
crazy.
She was
work.
Why
quite
is it
upset
so
with the way I
fuzzy?
drove out of the print shop.
Is it too dark in
At high
here?
speeds.
We can if you hit that. If you hit the main light, that's a nice yellow light that might balance out a little bit. Yeah, the main one.
Should I join on YouTube?
No.
Sure.
You'll get
Let's see how many
left out.
computers we can have on the exact same link, uploading and downloading the exact same
Well, if we
thing.
get a hotspot.
Yeah. There, that probably warmed it up a little bit, so it's a little bit warmer.
Darren is helping us out over on GoToWebinar, where we are not,
Yeah, we are not.
with a link over
GoToWebinar.
here. And we both struggle today. How do we start GoToWebinar? How do we get the right slide to show up?
Computing.
Oh
How
my
does it
goodness.
work?
We need a web audio video concentrator.
This was actually the easy way to do this live video. When Bree and I looked at really how you do it, it's like, oh, you put it here and you convert it through that and you do this and then you're live. Oh my gosh. So it's still a little complicated because we have the slides,
Over
which
here.
may be hard to see for this live show, but we will splice them in
Later.
later so they're the real slides
Mhm.
and it should be pretty good. Magneto 417 times says it's cool. Looks like a pickaxe is coming out of a head.
It's Magneto
Oh
417.
yeah, we did that
X.
yesterday too.
Yeah.
X
There.
times
Let me pick your
417
brain.
times.
Mr. Jeff.
Oh,
That was-
very good job.
Clean desk policy. We gotta get the one that.
We have a policy for that?
Well, no, that's not
Should
the
I,
point. I was
are you
just
watching the
showing
webcast or are
everybody
you watching the
the
live
password.
cast?
I'm watching the chat.
Well, I'm glad Jeff's on. Jeff, could you do me a favor? If we cut out or anything, just text me on my cell phone.
Don't text, just chat right here.
No. Oh, he's gonna be on GoToWebinar and YouTube.
No,
at
we're
the same
chatting
time?
on our live.
What's the YouTube live
Well, you
link?
can do that too. That's fine. But okay,
Don't-
fine. I just wanted more.
Don't send it to his phone because is your phone on silent, Mister?
It is. It is on silent, but
All
deadly.
right.
Um,
All right. Ding 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 ding.
Can you read me the live link?
What's
No.
what I can do, guys? And
We
then-
want to respond.
oh, do we have that on Twitter yet?
Oh, you.
The live link?
We want to watch.
Not
You
yet.
don't want to
Do
watch
run
it,
there?
really
It's
does. mess
really
you up.
I understand.
messes with your head.
But I'm going to watch the chat at a minimum.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
Okay.
John, do you want it on there?
I suppose.
Yeah, let's go and let's get it tweeted out.
I suppose.
You're going to allow it?
I'm, here, I'll just tweet it.
So the other thing is we've got to do lunch after this.
I
Because
would,
guess what?
It's your 2-year
5
anniversary.
year.
Am I speaking
I
too
heard 5
loudly?
years.
Well,
It's fine.
It's
Hey!
actually longer than that.
You
She
missed
was
my
helping
2-year
that.
anniversary.
She was helping. She didn't,
I didn't know
you
that
didn't
was a
let
thing.
me know.
Oh, I have to tell you.
Yes.
He doesn't
I
remember
don't
all
e-
the things. He
I
doesn't
don't-
remember your anniversary,
I don't
Jordan.
remember. I don't even remember my children's birthdays. Like I
Unless
got a
someone
vague idea
reminds
when they
you?
land on the year in the year, but the actual year they
Ish.
were born, hell no.
That's awesome.
I was married in 2000. I think we had Lauren in 2000.
Sierra, I don't want to go through 2FA
You
for
guys have been
everything.
married for 18 years?
Yeah,
Come on, YouTube link.
yeah, we're old.
Can you write it or?
You're not old. That's awesome. I just sent it to you.
I'm not authenticated to anything.
Twitter.
So how do I
She's gonna
send
put
it
it
to
on
you?
I'm not
Twitter.
authenticated to Twitter either.
You
Oh
don't
my
have to be
gosh,
authenticated
he's
to
so
Twitter.
paranoid.
You just have to Google Black Hills InfoSec Twitter. No, here, do this.
Here.
Fledge taught me when you close your
This is how
browser,
you
you
use
should
Google.
clear cache, all previous links, and everything else.
Okay, do Twitter, and then you do @
Or tab. Learning.
Okay, it's
Black
on Twitter.
Hills Vikings.
I'm typing
That's
awkwardly.
close enough, yeah.
Wow.
Have you been working out?
No.
Ugh, Magneto says it's X.
BLA.
What?
It's X.
I told you it was X. You wouldn't-
All right, clearly I'm
Did I
wrong.
mistype
You're
that?
welcome.
Or is it BH?
Otherwise, you put a
InfoSec?
number
It
at the
is
back
BH
of it, and you
InfoSec.
multiply it by 417.
B Hills.
Like you said, Justin.
Give me that thing. I know what to do now.
Info
We honestly
security.
do not know. Oh, it's BH Info Security.
Yeah.
Complicated.
Black
You don't know your own
Hills
Twitter
Information
handle?
Who set this up?
Security is a really
Gosh,
long
that's an inside
title.
joke that's just not funny. All right. See, now you can just click it and it takes you right to our page.
Hey, hey, hey.
And that's
That's
how
how
blog posts
babies
are
were made.
Okay.
Because remember, we're
Where's
doing
your-
this all for the
Where's your
clicks.
crown, Vidal?
Not
We
here.
do need to count, don't we? We should make it.
Ooh,
Oh my
Mute.
god, it automatically played.
that's amazing.
That's,
On Twitter?
Okay, here we
Mute
go.
yourself.
There we go, that's
yourself, boo.
Mute
Actually,
yourself.
we look spectacular
No doubt.
wow.
on
Hey, what
the
is
Twitters.
this?
Thank you, John. I
look
appreciate
great.
that. You look
Oh,
great.
speaking of Twitter, Deviant just posted this tweet about the power of Black Hills performance. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is.
I don't know, but
Dutchman. Oh, that's
Yeah.
their names. Okay. They look like. I don't know.
they might. I thought they were gonna be hot shots at first.
No. It looks like competitive shooting, maybe.
Yeah, him and Tara are still trying to figure out if they want to come out.
Wait.
They have like other things. So if you guys on Twitter could just basically tell Deviant
Harass
and Tara,
them. No, what?
we're gonna
No.
use the Bully Pulpit. Like tweet them and say they should go
Tweet
to
them,
Wild
right?
West
It's the hug
Hackfest.
of death.
And they sleep and they can sleep in my basement.
See how long we can. See how long we can make their phones ding with Twitter updates.
That's the idea.
Hi, Brenda. Brenda's pointing at the camera again.
Hi, camera.
Well,
Camera.
you guys naturally look at me sometimes because I'm the only
I
When
don't.
you
woman.
talk to us or make motion,
Don't. I can't. 'Cause she's
Okay.
out here in my
Well, it
personal
helps if
vision.
you don't talk to us.
if you were sitting right next to the sign, it would appear to us as if you were.
Your audience.
And then every
Yes.
once in a while you can just do like, the camera's up here.
However, we would need a bar stool.
Okay.
Oh, that was a shot.
Oh my gosh, that's just.
That's a
wow.
joke about
I would
Britney
say it was a
Jones
short
being
shot.
short.
Magneto's saying it's dark. What do you think? Is it
I don't
dark
know
in
what
here?
else we can do. We can
Well,
turn
are
on
we on a
that
team
light.
or am I the
That
good
one?
team or bad
He
team?
said it's dark in here, winky face. I'm not really sure how
Oh,
to interpret that.
Don't. I would just ignore him then.
Yeah.
It's
That's probably
getting
better.
dark in here.
The winky face is no good. Oh, 46. Okay, so let's talk about Wild West Hack 'N Fest. Tickets are live, which you probably already knew. And if you don't, then you should know, and
I
you
just
should
don't
get
have
one.
a slide here.
Hey, look at
That's
that. Jordan is going to speak.
Fletch and I are speaking about IPv6. Fletch will be doing some reconnaissance
Hey, have you been approved
updates.
yet? Just kidding.
Highly unlikely, nor would I expect to. I will be doing
You're approved.
some mathematical analysis of how many .1 routers there might be out there,
There's a
how many
lot.
DNS servers, and how many websites are actually listening on V6 at this point. So we're going to do some investigations on IPv6.
That sounds like fun.
Mining the
Information.
internet.
For IPv6, Quad A records via DNS.
Yes, high five.
The more boring talk about logistics. The Grand has filled up with hotel rooms, but
It's not bad.
there's hotels literally across the
the
street. Silverado, Franklin, the Gold Dust.
The Bullock's
We
fun.
have a special thing with the Gold Dust, and all that is under the tab visitor info on wildwesthackenfest.com.
So you won't need to take a bus to get to the event this year. You can stay right downtown and walk wherever you want. So that works out great. And I think you can also get like I think a lot of the casinos have shuttle buses from the airport.
Some of them do, and we didn't know about that till last year, but like the Lodge did have a shuttle bus, and I think that the Grand might have a shuttle bus. I'm not
Yeah.
sure. And also, Lyft has started services, but I can't confirm or deny that since I've never lifted
Let's
around
see if I
here.
can order a lift right now.
Has the
Lift us to
hitchhiking
lunch,
story
John.
been
Lift us
publicly
to lunch.
disclosed?
Should totally
Across the
lift us
street.
to lunch.
Has the hitchhiking story been publicly disclosed? Is that?
Hitchhiking? What? Huh?
Yeah, there's a hitchhiking story
Wait, what?
from the event last year. I'm not going to publicly disclose it if it hasn't been discussed already in a public forum.
Oh, that's right.
Oh,
Fair enough.
wait, yes.
Why do you think I'm in San Francisco?
Just tell us that it's. You don't have to name names.
Yeah, some people were stuck without travel since we don't have Lyft. We do now. We don't
We
have
did
Lyft,
that
and
day.
we don't have Uber.
We did that day. That day they released it. Just curious. Very curious.
Okay, so I'm waiting for a lift.
And no rental cars because there's only like 30 in Rapid
You
City.
literally ordered a Lyft?
No, I'm seeing if where the nearest one is.
Oh.
The nearest one is in Denver.
Belfood.
Belfouche.
Well, hey, you know, if you want an extra job
There you go.
before
Sign
Wild
up
West
for
that.
Hackenfest,
Come
you
out.
can join Lyft.
Yeah.
Drive some hackers back and forth.
Can you lift in a rental car? Like if I was
No.
in a rental car,
No.
could I lift?
No.
I'm sure you
No?
can set up your Lyft
No,
account and
absolutely
then
not.
just use your rental car. They wouldn't know. I'm sure Lyft would be all about that. Let's try Uber. I don't think Uber's here either.
Get some good stories.
Negative.
Lifting in a rental car?
No, lifting hackers.
Oh.
It sounds totally
In any car.
like it would work out well. All right, there's no lifts in Spearfish. But I'm actually thinking about like getting a big conversion van and figuring out when the flights come in the day before and then just showing up like a little hat, giving a ride to people up to the. Because there's only like 4 or 5 flights, and I could spend the whole day before. That's a total waste of my time.
They're gonna be like, is that John Strand? That's John Strand. John Strand's our driver.
Don't talk to him.
Did you get a picture of the hackers headline from last year?
That was awesome. I did when we
Oh
picked
my
up
gosh.
Egypt. That was cool.
What was the headline? I
It was
didn't
just
see
it was just a
Giant
headline in a
bold
newspaper and
print.
it said hackers, and it was some news story not related to our conference, but I was standing and people and said hackers. Should have the little sign like the little tourist groups, the little flag. Follow me, everybody. We're going to the bathroom first.
My mom still asks my opinion on stuff like that, and I still tell her we use crappy passwords
We do all the time.
everywhere.
Really
So
horrible passwords.
You mean toilet humor passwords?
pretty much.
Oh, you don't mean winter 2018.
No, there's a.
No, that still works. Yeah,
That still works.
that one's still good.
What about winter 2015? I still haven't changed it.
I
from 3
cracked a
years ago.
password via brute force against a company that did not have an expiration assignment, and it was spring 2001. That was in the last
Ouch.
3 months, so that was a 17-year-old password.
Holy crap.
That, unless they had just backdated it for fun when
See,
it
it's
got
brilliant
cracked.
because then you can just.
Yeah, it's not. It wasn't in our password list. It didn't hit on CrackStation. Didn't hit on our custom
It's
stuff.
just
But
There's
literally-
no way
it rooted.
anyone would have a password from that long
Too
ago. But you know,
old.
back in 2001, that was a great password.
That is true.
Yeah.
That was actually a good password. Because in 2001, the passwords were literally.
Can you believe it's been
Password.
20 years since 2001? Almost.
I can't.
Very few passwords don't actually involve toilet.
There are passwords that don't involve toilet humor.
Very few.
Ha ha ha.
Ha.
WBC Saint.
It's hard to
Do
come
you
up
know who
with.
that is?
Oh, that is.
Yeah, it's a little weird on YouTube because
strange.
we don't know
We don't have an
who you are.
association.
Yeah.
On GoToWebinar, we have your real name. Here, it's just
Bleh.
it's just this, but it's
Brenda,
good.
can you run recon on WPC site? See what you can find.
Brenda, do the computers.
I'm confused. That's okay. All right.
Oh, we want to direct.
51. What else are we supposed to talk about? We have 9 minutes before we're supposed to
How many
technically
people
go
are actually
live.
showing up on the YouTube thing? Are they making it through the scavenger hunt to get onto the live stream
19.
on YouTube?
Yeah.
Oh, this is a rousing success then.
We're trying it. We're not even technically live.
Yeah, yeah.
Wait, we're not live?
How many people want to go to webinar?
I'm looking.
That is excellent.
37.
Okay.
I literally don't see Darren's screen anymore.
Do we have audio into the GoToWebinar so they can at least hear us talk?
Darren's screen went to sleep.
Why?
I
Darren,
don't
you
know.
had one job.
Hey, so
One.
Okay,
I
moving
see
on.
that you're 40 people
Dang it.
here at the webinar. We're trying something new today, and we're trying YouTube
Banana for
Live.
scale.
So we've put
Beg your
the
pardon.
link there,
Yep.
and the webcast is actually going to be on YouTube Live.
We're brothers.
We're trying a new camera and some new stuff, so it's kind of annoying because you're here,
You're trying to get that.
and we
Oh.
appreciate that. But
What
we'd like
are
you
you
to go to
doing? So it's
YouTube.
awkward.
So
Digital
turning
device.
this off, and I will
It's
see
okay.
you over
Just-
there.
Leave
You
it.
drop it on the floor in the cooler at Black Hills Information Security. Just leave it because it's gone. All right.
Should we tell the story about the dots on the healthcare facility floor?
You had dots?
Wait, what?
Off the floor of a healthcare
Dots?
facility.
What are
Oh,
dots?
yeah. That sounds like a
yeah,
fun
that
story.
was terrible.
Well, can't laugh, but I don't know how funny it actually was.
So we're in a medical facility walking down the hall, and there's dots, little candies on the ground, and
Oh,
I'm
the
thinking,
candy dots.
Yeah.
Were they in packages?
Not anymore.
So I love dots. Dots are great, and I was just kind of when one falls and Jordan looks at it, it's like, nah, all right.
5 seconds.
Oh God, no!
This was years ago. I'm fine.
Yeah,
This is
At a
horrifying.
hospital?
It was
That
in
sounds
a
like
hospital.
good way to get.
it was like
Healthcare facility is
yes.
different than a hospital.
It was a couple months later they had to
I don't
close
know.
portions of the business because of was it MRSA or something? Yeah, it was bad.
Well, you know that 1 in 4 of us have some form of MRSA wandering around in our sinuses.
Yeah, now
Actually-
you have flesh-eating
actually-
bacteria.
Actually,
Sure, absolutely.
There
It
was something
didn't do
I read
much
about
damage.
MRSA that they're developing the next big antibiotic from, like, your nose.
Well, they ought to hustle.
Because
Mine?
most not yours personally. No, because like people can fight off MRSA because everybody, lots of people have it. But
Yeah.
it's scary.
That's good to know.
Absolutely.
It's good to know.
Be
That's
careful with the
nasty.
strain you get.
Yeah, how do we know? We actually have 30 people on now.
Yeah, I went and told everybody on webinar to get over here because Darren let his computer go to
Why does
sleep.
John look so smart? John is
I'm
slouching.
so fired. Of course I am. I'll sit up straight when I get to that point. I'm tired. I'm so tired. I wrote slides and completely messed with the entire chi of the studio today. So, because I wanted to have some slides for people to see it live, because I'm addicted to the SANS Institute slides. I can't really present
He is
at all
kind of
without.
addicted to slides. We were
without
going to try and
having
do the
slides.
slide list, but John
No, that's-
can't do things slideless.
Picking ants off my skin, man.
Oh,
Eating
man.
dots off the floor of hospitals. I've got a problem.
Oh, no.
Dots are the best. Even covered in a little environmental hazard. Still excellent.
Oh, man. Oh, man.
Nice. So now we're hitting that lull 5 minutes before. It is 5 minutes before the webcast. It's like, well, now we have nothing to talk about. We can't even pretend that we
Should
like
we
each other anymore.
review BHIS policies procedures?
Yeah, let's go through that. Sounds like fun.
Should take about 15 seconds.
It's like that episode of Rick and Morty where Rick just takes gas, douses everything, and sets it on fire.
on the way out says,
You know
go
what?
home.
This isn't fun anymore.
Um,
Get out of here.
We also wanted to let you know, if you don't normally follow our blog, we do have a blog post. I don't know why you wouldn't, because it's amazing.
Duh.
But we have a blog post today for the instructions, so you can also look at that. And we made it so you can print it out easily. So if you want to take that as a handout, it's on the blog.
I'm halfway tempted to write a book about this, like a small.
Oh, another
self-published
book that I could edit?
More typos, Sierra.
My life would be, I
Decide
could
to
die
shut
a
up.
happy lady.
If you just
Just add another
proofread
book.
one more book. Why do we let someone with a 4th grade education write anything?
It
for
wasn't
this
the
company?
typos. Honestly, it was kind of just
Formatting.
the formatting.
Formatting.
And your writing style is very stream of consciousness.
Yes.
And,
I said leave that alone.
So sometimes it like just needs to be tweaked slightly.
Yeah.
The banana is for scale.
Someone finally understands me.
Question.
Oh my goodness.
So how is it that the camera will zoom in? Presumably
It's so
automatically,
awesome.
but it's doing it on me and Sierra.
Because we're talking.
Because when you talk,
And I'm the
she
prettiest.
taps. She taps.
Oh,
She's got
Brenda.
the tappy tap.
It is Brenda.
Brenda, look at you. Oh, this is perfect.
See,
I take back what I said about the stool. This is awesome.
this is awesome. That camera is awesome sauce. So
Can we get a
that's
couple of those?
really, really cool. I think that one's like $700. I think we are going to get a couple because we're going to have 2 main stages for Wild West Hack and Fest.
No,
I
no.
think we need 2 of them.
No. We're not going to get cameras because we're not doing the cameraing.
It's my dementia. It's sinking in.
Oh my goodness. That's okay. It's okay. We have a
No,
lot on your
early
mind.
on.
Come back! Come back, Shane! Come back! There we go. I just pulled a Darren.
Oh
He
no.
went to
Oh
sleep.
no.
So. Oh my gosh. Alright, so are we unmuted on GoToWebinar? So they can at least hear us and they can be confused and they can type in, hey, I hear you guys, but I don't see any slides or video. Then we can repost the exact same link in the chat again and again and again.
Okay, so if you are open, if you have both of these open, now you should mute GoToWebinar. Can you mute when you're an attendee?
See, GoToWebinar is going to be 30 seconds further in the future.
It is.
than
Wild.
YouTube. It is.
If
The
you
electrons are going faster.
That's why.
science. If you can mute us, then we're gonna like show up and GoToWebinar just audio, so that you can at least, hey, we're up to 55 people.
That's good.
Thank you very much on YouTube Live.
I kind of like the YouTube Live thing. I like the, if we could figure out a way, we should almost do like an AV switcher. I don't know how we can do that, where we can switch the input from one computer and the camera.
The thing that's nice about this is that before we only had webcams that were live, and
Yeah.
the webcams are pretty crappy.
They're horrible.
This way, you can see all of us
This is
together.
a nice camera.
So when we're in studio together, it's a nice.
You can tell it's nice because it's red, glowing
Around the top.
Oh.
You know, it needs to have a little
Circular.
light going back and forth like Kit from Knight Rider.
You only do 10 seconds, right? And that's a copyright violation.
Yeah,
It's like
it
10
is.
seconds,
It's only
yeah.
10 seconds.
So I have to cut you off there. Hey.
Okay,
Alright,
you guys,
thanks, Matt.
if you're on GoToWebinar, jump over to YouTube Live. I'm muting this again.
And do we have like a chat, just text with a URL, like a constant like copy and paste response? There we go. Copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste.
It's the only thing in my copy.
That's it.
We could write a
That's all.
script for the YouTube chat that just dumps the link in a bunch of times with YouTube.
Yeah, as soon as somebody's like, I can't hear or I can't anything, it just responds back. That's artificial intelligence right there. It's AI.
Hey, and look at it's 10:59.
It's using natural language processing.
You've listened to us yammer away.
About that time.
It's
All
time
right.
for us to start.
All right, so let's go ahead and get started. This is a bit strange.
Before we start, this
Oh.
is John Strand,
Jordan
Jordan
Drysdale.
Drysdale, Ken Ickler.
Eichler.
Seriously.
Really? She calls you Ickler all the time.
Well,
She's
what
got
am-
me doing it now, and I'm your boss.
Yes!
I'm sending your check to
I'm
some
waiting for-
random person.
And next
now.
I'm waiting for Kickler because I haven't changed my email address.
Kickler
And
makes
I'm
sense.
Sierra.
Kickler. All
So we're here for our Cubicles and Compromise webcast. Thank you so much for joining us on YouTube Live. Pardon our hiccups. This is the first time we've done it, but I think it'll be great. So
We've got a couple of new things that we're doing, right? So one, this isn't a standard presentation that we've always done, and two, it's a completely different setup. Like we have strange cameras, different lighting styles. The studio's all set up differently, so please bear with us. And if you're listening on GoToWebinar, there should be in the chat a link to jump onto YouTube, and literally Sierra's going to do nothing but copy and paste that through the entire presentation. All right, so the name of this setup or session, presentation, whatever we want to call it, is actually Cubicles and Compromises. It's based off of Dungeons and Dragons, but it relates to incident response. So we have Jordan, we have Kent, and they have created character sheets.
There's passwords on those.
Which is funny,
Whoa.
because whenever I said, oh, you guys are creating character sheets, they both looked at me and said, what's a character sheet? So some of you know, some of you don't. But they've created character sheets associated with their organizations for this particular game. So this is brought to you by SANS 504, Hacker Techniques, Exploits, and Incident Response, also known as the single greatest information security class of all time, hands down, I think.
Quote. John Strand.
That comes from good authority.
2018.
When you start quoting yourself, that's bad. Like you're in Kanye
You're
West
just
territory
awesome.
at that point. Put yourself in the
Is
third
it like
person.
the same as putting your like a thought leader?
Yeah, that's right.
I'm
Oh
a thought
wait,
leader.
I should change that and put thought leader after
No,
it.
John Strand, comma, thought leader. Yes.
All right, so it's also brought to you by Wild West Hackin' Fest, the greatest Hackin' Fest in the West. We will be October 25th and 26th at it's at the
Grand.
the Deadwood Mountain Grand. There are still rooms available. You can stay literally anywhere in Deadwood, South Dakota, and you can walk easily to where the conference is going to be. So there's lots of rooms. There's lots of cool places to stay, great places to eat. We're bringing back, I'm pretty sure that Dual Core is coming back. I'm not 100% certain, but I believe he is.
Don't name names yet because we're still nailing it down. But there
Yeah.
will be awesome people there you won't want to
I got into a conversation with Johnny Long, though, yesterday. We were going back and forth. And he's like, what are we doing for the speaker dinner? Like he was basing whether or not he was going to come back on the quality of the speaker dinner.
The speaker dinner will be awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be like prime
Two
rib.
words.
Prime
Prime rib.
So we'll do that.
I don't know
And,
prime rib, but
yeah, we're going to
very
push him
great.
over the edge with that. I should tell him free beer too. Then everyone's going to be submitting to call for paper. All right, so what if I told you there's actually live action games other than Boffer LARP? And Boffer LARP, for those of you that dated in high school, it basically involves you build your swords and you put foam around it and then duct tape, and you literally run around and hit each other as though
My
you're really
goodness.
fighting. Yes, there are other ways to actually go about doing things rather than that. So what we're going to do is something slightly geeky. We're going to do this as far as incident response, the cubicles and compromise. So why are we doing this though? Well, we do this because a lot of the incident response tabletop exercises that we do at Black Hills Information Security, traditionally, for years, they were kind of boring. Organizations expected us to come in, go through the incident, and it would get just horrible. Like we'd say, oh, well, let's say you guys didn't detect that. And they'd say, well, we'd always detect that. We run Carbon Black, or Silence, or CrowdStrike, or Endgame, or whatever. And they couldn't get past that initial idea that their security technologies might not miss, or might not catch everything. They might actually miss something, and they just couldn't get past that. So every single incident that you would run across with some organizations, it would never be detected, or it would never like go beyond initial detection. It's like, well, our AV would stop that. Well, our firewall would actually stop that on like our extrusion detection, what's leaving the environment. And the games were horrible. And then it involved a lot of like looking up policies and trying to read the policies and the minutia of the policies, and it just sucked. So we decided about, I don't know, 9, 10 months ago, maybe longer, to incorporate 20-sided dice into the scenario. And I don't actually have my 20-sided dice with me, but I have the D&D Quick Dice app. Rolling dice on this, I figured would be a bit of a problem because it would roll across the floor, it would fall on the floor. We'd have people tripping over
He has
cables.
an app for Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, I have an app for Dungeons and Dragons. I also have the complete rules book reference as well.
Do we need to go through the rules?
Yeah, we're going to go
We're
through,
gonna
we're going to
definitely need
read the entire rule set. We're going to go through the rules as it relates to this game as well. So the rules are, I'm the incident master, what I say goes. Anything, like if I say, oh, well, that you can't do that, or you didn't detect that, or whatever, it goes, right? Anytime there's an action taken by you two, we're going to do a roll. And the success or failure of your action is going to be based on whether or not your roll is 11 or greater. That would be a successful roll. Or if it's 10 or lower, that would mean the action fails. So it's pretty easy, just 11 or greater, 10 or lower. Now there are some modifiers. If you play Dungeons and Dragons, a lot of times as your character levels up, there are modifiers for certain activities. So you can get like a +2, +10 modifier. And I've added in some modifiers. You get a +5 modifier on your roll if your organization has procedures. And we're doing 2 scenarios. One scenario involves a company with horrible computer security procedures, and the other one is an organization that's pretty good. And this is based off of some of your history, some places where you may or may not have worked, and also some companies that you may or may not have worked with as well. So they're going to kind of roll with what the procedures they have in place. They also get a +2 modifier if the organization has someone trained in that activity. So some people argue, why do we give more of a preference to procedures than people that actually have training? Procedures are a lot easier for organizations to follow. They can actually go step 1, step 2, step 3. You can give it to ASOC the intern, and ASOC the intern can actually walk through it. Whereas if someone's trained, they may have gotten trained, but they may not have paid attention. They may just be not that interested in computer security, just because you have their own methodology may be completely different. So I'm giving a modifier, but not really a big modifier for training. There will also be random injects throughout this game, just strange things that happen out of the blue as well. Also, for you two, feel free to ask lots and lots of questions. If you need clarification on anything, you can ask me whatever you want at any time. And sometimes I may say I can't answer that at this time. That's okay as well. Also, if you're live, if you have any questions, your questions are going to be about 30 seconds delayed on the YouTube streaming channel. And if you want to ask some questions on the mechanics, please hold those at the end, and we will address those when we get there. Now, the goal is to identify the procedures in the organization that don't exist, some areas of improvement, maybe some technology that they could put in place, and some training as well to improve the overall security practice. Now, these scenarios, we like to go through them relatively quickly. The goal is to do multiple scenarios with multiple different injects rather than just having one scenario that's completely comprehensive of absolutely everything. So let's get started. Monday morning, you guys. So on Monday morning, help desk gets a call. And the call basically comes from an end user, and the end user says, I got a bunch of these AV pop-ups on my computer system. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. So help desk took this information, and they called you. They said, hey, Susie down in accounting is getting all kinds of AV pop-ups. What do you guys do?
We should have had you assigned as a sysadmin.
Sysadmin 1 and sysadmin 2.
Are we working together or against
You guys
each
are
other?
working together. You guys are a team on this.
What did the AV pop-ups say?
So the help desk personnel, whenever you ask them what did the AV pop-up say, the help desk guy says, well, I didn't get that from her. She just said they were AV pop-ups. I didn't get any information. I did tell her, however, that she needs to just delete the files. So whenever she got the AV pop-ups, she just deleted it said quarantine, delete, suspend. She just chose delete because that's what I told her to do.
Excellent. Okay, well, fortunately, we've got a SIM, and our SAT product sends those alerts into our log system. So we've got those, and we can look them up.
Okay.
We know what system that's on, so we're going to go ahead and try to turn that system off, get it offline, isolated for the moment.
Okay, so you're going to isolate the system. Are you guys physically going to isolate the system, or are you going to have help desk try to physically isolate the system?
Unfortunately, we're not in the same area, so
Oh.
we're geographically separated a bit, so it's going to be a little bit tough, but we're going to have to try to work with the help desk to work with the end user to do that.
And I don't know if I'd be prepared to power it off yet. I would definitely unplug the network.
So I got a question on this though. With your help desk and going to this computer and unplugging this computer or powering it off, do you have procedures for help desk and desktop support to actually go to a system and what they should do for initial incident response, triage, powering it off? Do they have procedures on how to handle this?
Well, I tell you, at our organization, our help desk staff is very qualified. And they know just right off the top of their head what to do. So,
But the
leaving
procedures?
well, I mean, they're understood.
They're understood.
Yeah.
So you're not getting a modifier for this at all.
But it's understood. I don't understand.
Yep. No, if it's not documented, you don't get the plus modifier.
Dun,
But
dun,
guess what?
dun.
It doesn't matter because you guys rolled a 12.
Ha!
So you guys
That's
rolled a
good.
12. So you isolated the computer system and you were going to go check the SIM to try to identify what the malware actually is. Now, are there procedures in place with your security team on how to go and query the SIM and look up this type of information in AV alerts?
Yes, we do take off one of our guys. He typically doesn't work in that environment, but we have taken him off of his current duties, helping another customer, and put him on searching for those alerts in the SIM. He said he did find those alerts.
No, he didn't.
Oh.
He rolled a 1.
Oh, dear. He did not find them.
He rolled a 1.
In fact, it looks like speaking to the help desk tech again.
Who, Josh
so
says,
I'm-
our help desk is highly qualified.
Highly qualified.
Mind you, they are highly qualified. They're so qualified, in fact, before they had the person delete the files, they actually unplugged the network cables.
Okay, so the system is unplugged.
Yes.
You rolled a 12 on that, so you were successful in isolating the computer system. However, you did not identify the actual AV alert. So the analyst that went and looked it up said, I got nothing, no alerts. from that system. Now, that could have been a number of reasons. It could have been that the AV was behind on updates. It could be that it was actually off as well, which is unfortunate because that's exactly what happened in this particular scenario. In this particular scenario, now I'm filling you in with a little bit more information of what's going on. The attacker was on that workstation, got local administrator because Sue, in accounting, was actually a local administrator because she needed to do it for scanning checks in, and the software that she had required her to be local administrator. So she was local administrator. Now, unfortunately, in this organization, local administrator password is widespread. They're not using laps or anything like that to actually change the local administrator password. It's also very easy to guess what the local administrator password was.
Winter 2001?
No, yeah, it was spring 2001. So the password was easily cracked.
How
Now,
do you already know the password? That's not released yet.
yeah, I'm the
He's
dungeon,
further
I'm the
down.
incident master.
yeah.
I know all, I see all. Didn't you see the cartoon in the 80s? It was right before Rubik's Cube. So this particular attacker was able to pivot and was able to get domain administrator, right? Was able to get domain administrator on this particular environment. However, once they did get domain administrator, you talked about you had a SIM, right? Now, as soon as they got on that system, they tried to do a volume shadow copy, basically pulling ntds.dit out of the volume shadow copy, which, believe it or not, did in fact trip an alert that someone was trying to access the volume shadow copy on the domain controller. So now you've got an alert that says the volume shadow copy is trying to be copied off. What do you do now?
Well, it's kind of unfortunate. The help desk staff that saw that alert, they actually thought it was a backup related issue, and they didn't know that it was a part of an instant handling issue.
Wait,
so.
I'm getting the feeling this literally happened at some point. This is starting to feel, this just got too
Very
real.
real.
This just got too real, too fast.
So the good news though is that the backups did work out okay. So I went to the help desk. Help desk says backup issue. The backup team looked at it and said, "Yeah, backups completed successfully. We have backups."
All right, so you do have backups.
Yes.
So they
they're-
thought the
which
VSS
is-
writers were triggered by the backup product.
Which is awesome because now you guys have a backup, but then the attackers also have a backup of your ntds.dit file
Oh, good.
as well. But you know what time it is right now? This incident is spiraling horribly, horribly out of control. This is just not
Also,
going well.
Eric says a roll of 1 carries forward to a -2 modifier on the next challenge.
Yeah, we aren't doing those rules. You
Thank
try
you,
explaining
Eric.
that. Eric's a jackass. So you guys try explaining that to CEOs. A -2 modifier on the next roll. All right, so it's time for your inject. So are you a wizard? Yes, yes I am. The inject is the attacker, because now they have domain administrator. They actually posted one of your databases proving that they've compromised your organization out on Pastebin.
He's gonna cry.
Call legal. Call legal. Very, very good. Now, I got a question. Not necessarily something we're going to roll on, but does this organization that you're representing, does this organization have escalation procedures in place? Are they defined escalation
Oh, most
procedures?
of you have got the help desk tier 1 and the help desk tier 2, and we got a network guy in there somewhere, and then it goes straight up to the management.
Yeah, who's left?
So-
Sea level?
Yeah,
Who's
we
on your
just-
sheet? Come on, let's see your
We just go
character
straight
sheet.
to sea
No,
level.
we got HR in there in management. Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But those procedures are in fact documented.
They are documented, and they are occasionally enforced.
Occasionally
Dun,
they are
dun,
enforced.
dun.
All right, like I said, we weren't going to do a roll on that at all.
But now you're former security professionals.
So, but now you're dealing with legal, and now you got to kind of role play legal and management. Now we have Pastebin, right? We've got all this information out on Pastebin. We clearly have malware on the inside of the environment. We now are basically taking 2 separate actions. Action 1 is going to be what's the management response for dealing with customers and getting notification out. But then we still have the technical. So we're going to break this into 2 separate role plays at this point. So on the technical side, what is your team going to do to deal with this incident from a technical perspective, from a technical side?
Sure. Well, understanding that the passwords at this point are basically compromised, especially given the password policy that we didn't discuss. We're definitely going to suggest changing passwords for all users at this point.
Okay.
And also
Suggest?
Suggest.
Yes. Also,
I bet that's a good point, right? You're going to suggest, because who ultimately is going to be making those decisions on the actual actions that are going to be taken?
It's going to be the management.
It's going to be management at this point. Very good. Okay. Very cool.
What if we block Pastebin?
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, that might work.
Somebody put it, we block Pastebin. Problem Solved.
Done.
If we can't see it, it's not a problem. Just put your head in the sand, your ass in the air. It's going to be okay.
And Jeff wants to know, are they documented on paper and invisible ink?
No, they are documented digitally. With
But
digital
still-
signatures.
But equally invisible. All right, so from the technical side, you guys are going to try to get authorization from management to change all of the passwords in the organization. I think that that's an interesting approach. But you still have malware on the environment. So how are we going to identify the malware on the environment?
Baseline DA accounts, per my policy. Who's DA and who's not?
Okay. Oh, DA policy, okay. See who's domain administrator. What exactly would you be looking for if you're going to be looking at who's domain administrator and who's not?
Outliers.
Outliers, very, very cool. Also remember, we have a similar, just a kind of nudge thing, we have a similar that's an account tried to access ntds.dit in the volume shadow copy. What could we possibly do with that?
Assume that was a compromised account.
There we go, there we go. All right, so let's check and see if we actually detected that. You rolled a 14, and you were able to identify the domain administrator account that was in fact compromised, which is great. So based on doing the DA
But
policy, yes.
what if we installed Norton Internet Security? Or Kaspersky?
Kaspersky. Easy.
Minus-
Easy.
Minus 10. Oh, no.
Moving on.
Moving on, we're not going to be ripping on our AV brethren much anymore. So you guys identified the account that was compromised. So now what are your next steps? You've identified the compromised account. What are your next steps for this one?
Well, we also want to be able to identify the ingress, try to figure out how the system was.
Okay, so we're going to go back and we're going to look at the system, correct?
Yeah.
So we got the account. What system is that account actually
Containment,
on?
forensics.
Very cool. So if you guys are going to look at the egress and what's leaving the environment, what procedures and technologies do you have in place that will assist you in actually identifying that egress traffic that's leaving the
Are we
environment?
looking at company A or company B?
We're still in the bad company,
Okay.
the really
So
bad. horrible
fortunately,
company.
the unfortunate company did have a decent firewall system that reported those types of things to the SIM. However, we were able to find the ingress traffic and then the egress traffic going back out.
Okay. Now, I got a question. Do you have net flow on these firewalls? Like the SIM's going to point and say, hey, there's something funky here. Is there actual net flow data that you can pull off of these firewalls?
Unfortunately, there's not.
There is not, so we only have an alert.
Yep.
Okay, but we did at least get an alert of where the traffic was going, so we at least have that IP address of where the evil traffic is going. So what would be the next steps in this organization? If we have an external IP address where data is going outbound to, what would you guys do for the next step after you identify the external IP address?
Well, we still have malware that's in the system that we need to get taken care of. So now that we had that path figured out where the ingress and egress was, we need to look at getting that system cleaned up
Okay.
after we've analyzed it.
Great,
And
let's stop right there before we do too many steps, okay? So you're gonna analyze that workstation to identify what IP address it's communicating to outside of your organization. Do you have anybody trained, are there any procedures for doing live Windows forensics on that workstation to identify what network connections are currently being made?
No, we do not.
You do not have those procedures.
Pause.
Yeah.
Let's just call Black Hills Information Security.
We don't do incident response. Go to rendition, God, go to anybody else. Please. So.
Josh said that was what we should do. I like it though.
I think we should kick some ass and
However-
take a name or two, because that's what Brian Boitano would do.
We do have an excellent resource, Google.
You have Google.
Yeah.
Yes.
we do.
So we're going to Google how to do that.
Just rolled 100-sided dice.
Yes.
Congratulations, successful. This is right on the line. You guys rolled an 11 with no procedures at all and like no
We
training.
won.
You guys were able to identify the IP address that it was connecting out to from the SIM. You were able to identify the executable that was making that connection outbound from your organization. All right, very good. What's the next step?
For us, we need to get that system operational again, so we can get that system back up and going. However, we do know that the Active Directory domain's already been compromised in some versions, so we've got the passwords being changed there. So we're starting to get to a little bit more comfortable of a place.
Okay.
Review filtering. What
Do
are
we-
we filtering outbound?
Do
Do
you
we
think we
have
should check-
port or IP
Yeah.
filtering?
So I think that that's interesting. Is there any way at all that your organization can get any type of connection data that's leaving the environment associated instead of the SIM? Is there anything that you can do to try to see, are there any other systems that are connecting outbound to this particular IP address?
Unfortunately, there's not. We use our SIM and we rely on it heavily. And
And only the sim.
yes, unfortunately.
In sim we pray, in sim we believe. All right, so the next step is going to be what then? We named a whole bunch of things. What's your next step?
Filter.
Go to
Outbound.
filter the outbound to that IP address?
Yep.
Okay, so in this situation, that was successful. So the attacker only had one command and control server. Lucky you. And you rolled a 19. So that means that you were successful in actually blocking all the traffic going to that bad guy's computer system. So we're going to kind of table the technical side of it right now. Let's go back to the management side, right? Let's go back and let's talk a little bit on this paste bin issue that's right behind me. We have sensitive data, highly sensitive data, posted on a paste bin. You brought in management, you brought in legal. In this sample organization that is horrible at computer security, what do you think that this organization is going to do insofar as like managers?
One guy yells uphill and says we should disable every account until the password's changed.
Okay, so let's check and see if all the passwords were changed. Yes, all the passwords were successfully changed.
You guys are
You rolled
doing
an 18.
great.
That's right. That wasn't the way I wanted it to go.
No.
But you changed all the passwords.
This
But we
horrible
still,
company is succeeding.
in spite of itself, because at the end of this, they're going to say, clearly we have no problem. No problem at all, because we rolled
Everything's fine.
18s.
This is fine, right?
This is all fine. So now the question is, we've got two issues. We still have sensitive data online. How are we going to handle at this organization Pastebin and the sensitive data that's online?
Well, we've spoken to legal, and they said they're going to be drafting a document to Pastebin directly to
They
have
rolled a
that
6. They
document.
failed at drafting the document. No, I'm
Yeah.
there's no modifiers.
We
He's
need
going
a
to keep
sound
rolling
effects
until
board.
he gets a 4.
Wah, wah, wah.
You're going to draft a request to Pastebin to have the data removed.
Yes.
Okay. And
Were
roll-
passwords
roll
changed
the
to
15.
default?
So
You rolled a 15?
the passwords were all changed to change me 1, 2, 3.
Let me in.
Let me in. Yep. Now let's talk
Let
about the
me
PR
back in.
side. Let's talk about the PR side. How would this organization that you guys are representing, how would they handle it from a public relations perspective?
How about we fire the ISO? Someone's got to take the hit.
Contact marketing. See what they think.
Wow.
Dun dun.
Hand this
Hey.
over.
So glad that Sierra doesn't run
It's
this
nice that you
company.
think we have an ISO.
You know,
This company does. We're not playing as BHIS.
but let's, it's you, right? I'm not anything at all. So let's talk this through. So if we're handling this from an HR disaster perspective, what are some right ways and wrong ways to handle an HR problem like this? It's vis-a-vis your customers and even your employees.
Pay off the bad guys.
Who are we?
Different kind of
Uber?
ransom.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a shot.
That was a shot.
How about Tim says download a copy from Basement, sanitize it, submit to GitHub. They're full of all the good
Don't
ideas.
ever listen to Tim. Ever. Under any circumstances.
We're going to take this hacker and make it completely public. I would have a question in what state the business exists. And
Unfortunately, this is in South Dakota.
And in what
Oh,
state,
so we don't have to report squats.
and also what state all the clients are in.
Unfortunately, I think all of you guys, correct me if I'm wrong, but the company that you're representing, all the clients are in South Dakota.
Okay,
Correct.
and yes, and if I recall correctly, there was no medical data that was also released after reviewing this. Is that correct?
Yes, there was no medical data. There was no PHI that was released as part of this.
I actually just got a call from legal
Okay.
who says don't worry about notifying anyone, and they're working with Pastebin.
Let's see how that works. You rolled a 1. Don't believe me, it's right there. We rolled a 1. The users, not the users, but your employees and your customers saw that this data was in fact on Pastebin, and now you have customers that are calling you directly and demanding how you guys are going to deal with this data. So your cover-up of it did not work, to the surprise of no one. You guys roll great, except when it matters. All right.
Senate Bill 62. Okay.
Senate Bill
Polished
62.
resume?
Polished resume. 15. Congratulations. You're successful in getting a new
I just wanted to know
job.
if you said.
You're successful in finding a new job, and this is no longer your problem. No. Okay. All right. So if we're moving through this, we have users that are now complaining. How do we get ahead of this story?
Well, we're definitely going to work with the PR team, and
We have a PR team?
we do now because we had to hire one externally.
Oh, fair. Appreciate that.
PR suggests that you should get up and admit what you did and apologize.
Oh, great. PR is now
Oh.
speaking. Let's see how that works. In the great state of South Dakota, it works but barely. You rolled a 13.
Hey, that's more than barely. That's
And
2 points above barely.
I also know that in the state of South Dakota, your customers have no other options whatsoever, and we're going to close out this incident. All right. So now let's back up for a couple
Oh,
seconds.
that was
Yes.
painful.
At the end of this, at the end of this,
Surviving.
at the end of this, we now want to say, okay, what went wrong here? And I think that systematically there was a lot of things that went wrong. First, the procedures exist, but it doesn't sound like they're actually clearly, they're not actually clearly communicated with staff, right? And I'm also guessing that you guys were blowing smoke. Like, we have a very well-trained help desk, an outstanding help desk. And so I would say, like, if we're looking at procedures, if we were doing this for a customer, we would have marked out incident handling procedures for live Windows forensics, right? The SIM analysis procedures for actually how to go and look at a SIM. And I also noticed there was an astounding lack of training in this organization. I think there
Come on,
should be
sysadmin.
some fantastic training.
I have so
ourselves.
many certifications. I don't need training.
Yeah, Security
I
504,
already
which
know
is
everything.
which
Now
is
that you
literally
say-
the
Certification.
only certification you will ever need. All right. So
Someone said we should sell our stock first.
sell our stock.
And then we end up in jail. for
Before
insider
contacting
trading,
legal?
So.
Yeah. No. There's no evidence that they knew about the incident before they actually sold all their shares. So I think this is basically a full rewrite of the procedures. All joking aside, this organization had little to nothing in the way of actually handling computer security. They had some technologies in place, they had help desk in place, but I think they were relying on the skill set of people that worked on help desk to get them through the incident as a whole.
It's worth noting, I think they thought they were very secure.
They did think that they were very secure, but unfortunately, the only thing that saved this organization is that they were in South Dakota, and they had no reason to actually notify. What's the name of that bill that's coming up?
That's Senate Bill 62,
Senate Bill
which
62.
is not looking
No, it's been
favorable
shelved.
right now.
It's been shelved.
It's been getting pushed and pushed and pushed, and will probably get pushed to the end of session and tabled. So.
Yeah, great. So
The credit card companies
Hey,
don't
on the
want
plus
breach
side,
notification
Josh
changes.
says this company had user awareness because they did call the help desk.
they did, in fact. I think that that's actually a really strong point. But once again, was that because of this user, or was that because there was user awareness training?
Or because user awareness is in the news now.
Yeah, true. Absolutely. You can't let Fox News be your computer
Magneto
security.
says they were counting on a tool to save them.
And the tool did not in this situation.
So let's go to our other company.
Let's go to the other company. Now, this is a completely different company. This is actually a representative of one of the recent tests that we did, where the company was really solid in what they were doing. So this is going to be completely different. The first one, it sounded like there was a whole bunch of, oh crap, we don't know, we're going to try to pull these things out of our butts. This next company is representative of a very solid company that has very good security, and I actually have a scenario that's designed for that. So this one is pretty easy. Friday at 4:55 p.m., your company's main web server is defaced with a fluffy bunny.
Probably it's
Cute.
marketing fault.
It's probably marketing's fault. That's a cute bunny. This
Step
one is
one.
this one's a lot more fun because I know what actually happened and they've got to find out. All right. So step one,
Reboot Exchange.
reboot Exchange. That was successful. They rolled a 16, and yet it had nothing to do with the incident
Server's
whatsoever.
still up?
The web server is in fact still compromised after rebooting Exchange.
We have contacted marketing to let them know there's a fluffy, is it bunny?
Fluffy
Yeah,
bunny.
I
Sort of
don't know,
looks
we
like
can't
a
really
bunny.
see the
I've
slide. The
never
slide doesn't
seen.
really
All
show
right,
up.
so now here we go. So marketing went to the website, and they said everything is fine. They opened up the
Ooh,
website.
Cache copy.
Oh, okay. It could be a cache.
Could be DNS.
Interesting.
So what are you guys going to do? So we know that marketing looks at the website and everything looks okay. Marketing is in a different city than the actual IT security team. But the IT security team is going to this website, and it is in fact a fluffy bunny.
Can you restart from back?
Not yet. We're gonna look at DNS.
We're going to look at DNS.
Yep.
All right. So you look at your local DNS records, and all of your local DNS records are actually
Josh said a
success-
bunny's not really a defacement if it was a clown.
So you rolled an 18, and you notice that your actual DNS cache locally, everything seems to be just fine.
But the internet's
The internets. Okay, so how would we find out how the internets are working as it relates? For those of you that don't know, DNS is kind of like the phone book. It resolves names of websites like blackhillsinfosec.com to an actual IP address. So how would you check DNS remotely?
Well, we're going to want to check where the authoritative name server record is for our website, because it may have been changed to unauthorized.
All right, so do you guys actually have procedures for actually discussing this incident with your ISP, with your DNS provider? You guys actually have any procedures?
Absolutely.
You do have documented procedures for that. So you rolled a 7 on that, but guess what? You have procedures
+5.
+5,
We'll
so
take
that
it.
means it works. So you actually contacted your, we're rolling, and I'm bringing up Limp Bizkit. I am so very, very, very sorry for invoking the Fred Durst here. The 90s were actually...
Rolling, isn't that Kid Rock?
No.
Okay.
I'm really happy. Dude, you just got a raise. Congratulations. Well done.
Wow, that's all that took?
All right, so we try rolling
She's
again.
being an idiot in pop culture?
Yeah, well, specifically Limp Bizkit culture, it's very advantageous to be an idiot on that as well. All right, so you guys contacted the provider, and your DNS provider said, wait a minute, you guys actually faxed us in a DNS change request form this morning, and we're propagating out the new DNS record across all of our DNS servers right now.
With good fortune, we use GoDaddy, and that happens practically instantaneously.
There we go. Good fortune. Such a bad decision I made like 10, 15 years ago, and we're still paying for it to this day. All right, so, oops, crap. I gotta stop hitting that one. So you rolled a 17, and they were able to actually set the DNS records. However, it's time for an inject, right? ASOC, the intern, in the middle of this incident, decided that the web server was down. He heard from somebody that the web server was down. And he believed that the way to restore a website was to go and revert it to snapshot. Just right in the middle of working through this
Ken's
incident,
having a hard time.
just decided to revert this thing to a snapshot. Unfortunately, he didn't revert it to the most recent snapshot, which would have been like the previous day, and everything would have been just fine. He went and found the oldest snapshot. So, because somebody said, because he thought he heard somebody say, you need to revert it to the earliest snapshot, but he took that to mean the earliest in time, and he reverted it. This is literally not something I'm making up. This actually happened to one of our customers in the middle of the pen test. And he reverted it to snapshot, and the web server actually was reverted to a snapshot with a backdoor called hello.php on the web server. And the defacement is taken care of. You've got that. But as soon as you revert it to snapshot, now you're getting alerts that there's a reverse shell coming out of your web server going to Kazakhstan. Is nice.
Well, you know what we should do? Josh thinks we should send the intern to the help desk.
Send the intern to the help desk. Rebooting things is a lot less dangerous.
We know that snapshots aren't backups, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, unfortunately, ASOC, the intern,
Did not.
did not know.
Okay, so snapshots are temporary states in time.
They are
that
absolutely temporary
contain
states
nothing more
in
than
time.
delta of file.
Yeah, but look
I
at him.
think that maybe
Look at him. He's like a baby Mr. Bean.
I think we should lose points because someone gave the intern too much access.
Oh,
That's
wow.
hard
What
though.
a
That's hard though,
multiple.
right? I mean, like with a lot of these socks and knocks, it's literally a crash cart connected to a server, and you bypass
Or in
all
somebody's basement,
of it. Yeah,
sitting
or in
at
somebody's
logs
basement.
prompt.
Yep,
I don't know what you're talking about.
that's a video.
It's okay, marketing.
All right, so next step, what are we going to do here?
Check backups.
Check backups.
Do we have legit?
You do have legitimate backups. You rolled a 15, and the backups are live, so you're able to revert back to that backup, and actually restore operations, which is very, very good. However, we still have the PR fall, right? We can't get around that at all. So management's got to come up with an approach. How do we actually handle the narrative that there was a fluffy bunny? At least customers thought there was a fluffy bunny on our website for a period of time.
Marketing? Can we write a fluff piece quick?
And post it on Twitter.
We're so sorry.
Yeah, this was totally not our fault. Our DNS provider,
in the
our-
real
we were-
situation is probably much worse than Fluffy Bunny.
We were executing
assume.
maintenance on our server. At the
And
time.
we
Can we try to
accidentally
cover it up
put
again?
Fluffy Bunny.
Yeah,
on
covering
our
it up,
website.
that works great.
No, covering up never works.
never ever.
Issue a
ever
direct
works.
apology for
Yeah.
temporary compromise?
Yes.
Yeah, but was this actually a compromise? I mean, are you guys going to put the narrative in that way that you were actually compromised?
Well, somebody had to get on there and
Well, third
post
party
it,
was
so
compromised.
Yeah,
Yes,
but
it was.
So
Hang
really, we're
on.
looking at two separate things, right?
We have an acquisition and third party
you have
assessment.
a third-party assessment plan.
Because
So-
our website is hosted by a third party, so we can say that we apologize, it was the third party hosting service that was hacked. We have resolved the
So
issue.
we go
We're
to
working
policies
to
and
resolve
procedures, we
the
have
issue.
one, it's
Yeah.
written, we
With
have
that-
training on how to handle this.
We rolled a 15. So that's good. So that worked
Plus
out.
our modifier.
Really one. Plus the modifier, it's
Nailed it.
spectacular. It's spectacular. All right. So we go through it. So
Nicholas
let's talk
said-
about what went wrong in this organization. I think that there's a couple of different things. And this incident was actually created to articulate that incidents can happen in such a way that they're outside of an organization's control. So if you have an organization that is able to fax a piece of paper that says, please change your DNS records, you can call that whatever you want to your customers, right? But at the end of the day, the customers don't know what DNS is. They have absolutely no idea how this actually plays out. It's all a bunch of technical mumbo jumbo. So what is the issue? And by the way, the DNS thing via fax, I think that happened with Metasploit. Years and years ago, somebody was able to hijack Metasploit through a fax that was sent in. So if we're looking at it, what do we think went wrong? Let's start with that first one. We'll come back to ASOC the intern, because I think you guys touched on a couple of things that I think were very, very useful. So let's start with the DNS issue. What went wrong there?
Well, clearly we've authorized too much access to be accepting DNS changes from our provider via fax.
Yeah, but is that necessarily your organization's fault?
I don't have anything to say, go ahead. I was
Oh,
just-
Yeah, you
I
keep
was
looking at
just-
Sierra like, help, help.
I mean, to
Well,
a
someone said
certain
I should be promoted to senior sysadmin, so.
Yeah.
In certain aspect it is. because
Yeah, absolutely. We accepted
with
it.
Our third party, we should be limiting access to that as much as possible.
Yeah.
Only to that exact needed.
We dictated that an assessment be performed on their change management controls, which we have
There
in
we
place
go.
that
Okay.
they missed.
So what we're talking about now is more moving forward in the future and the lessons learned. There's no way you guys can do an effective lessons learned without bringing, I guess we're going to make it GoDaddy in this situation, to the table and actually have a conversation with them. Is there some kind of change that can be done on the permissions on the DNS provider? Is there some kind of internal permissions that they need to go through as well to not just trust faxes as they come in? So really, the lessons learned meeting is
Everybody
going to
knows
require.
faxes can be trusted.
Yeah, there's no way hackers use fax machines. It never would work. So I think that that's a good approach for lessons learned. Let's talk about what went right. So what are the procedures that you had in place that seem to be the most helpful to get through this?
Lots and lots of policies, right? However, let's see, what did we use in this case?
I've got backup policies for sure.
You also had policies for communicating with your DNS provider. I think that was
Change management.
Yeah, CM. That's awesome. Also, the initial detection. You guys went through and tried to check and see if the website, whenever you looked at it from multiple different angles, from the people out on the internet seeing a bunny to marketing, seeing everything is okay, and looking at that from multiple different areas, I think was helpful. It also helped to roll an 18 on that. I was hoping you guys would kind of flounder around a little bit on it.
You keep wanting us to flounder and you keep rolling us high things.
I know,
so
I know.
clearly
I
the
wonder
odds
if
in
that
our
thing's
favor.
It could be. It could be. It could be.
By location, GUI, yeah.
Yeah, we're kind of breaking it down by location. So now let's talk about it from the backup perspective. We had an ASOC, the intern, and the business inject walk in, and I think Sierra hit it right immediately, and was able to actually revert a web server to a snapshot in VMware. What are some things that went wrong there to allow that intern to actually do that type of activity?
Well, ASOC obviously had to have access to infrastructure, which is, in theory, a problem.
And that can boil down to physical access, right? Having too much access. Like our server room, you guys locked me out of it because I'm probably the most dangerous idiot at Black Hills Information Security. Why do you need to go into the NOC, John? Well, I just
Just make sure you sign out on the clipboard as we walk you in.
Yeah. You guys gonna escort me the whole time? Yes. So that physical access is part of it, right? What else? What are some other things? We have physical access policies and procedures that need to be reviewed. What else needs to be reviewed?
I think we need to look at the intern program as well, make sure that we are putting interns in appropriate positions within the company,
Yeah.
especially when it comes down to the IT area.
Yep, yep. Now, let's talk about the access to the council. If Isak the intern was able to just use a crash card to access a system and access the virtual machine environment and change things on the fly, what does that, I mean, let's kind of think this through. What does that generally entail? Did not happen in the knock.
Well, certainly he wasn't attended.
Yeah.
He had access to begin with, so that's a whole other issue. So there's two issues there. He had access and he was not attended. So.
And this is one of those things we see in physical assessments all the time, where you get into a network operations center, and they may have great security if you're from a help desk account or an administrator account or a standard user account, but you walk in, and how many times have we walked into Knox and there's a screen just logged in to one of their core servers, no authentication whatsoever. So that's probably another procedure that I think exists. I saw policies for password policies and lockout policies. But this is clearly one of those areas, yeah, right there. This is clearly one of those areas where that was not enforced. So the IT team was basically not enforcing the policies that were in place as well. And my screen just went quiet. There we
Or
go.
Jason says, sorry, I got you. How about, still not used to this scroll. How about the organization that apparently has ancient snapshots in VMware?
Some backup products will even break and just
All of
leave them.
Boy, there we go.
Service accounts change and there's old
Just
snapshots.
keep them running all the
take
time.
thousands of snapshots, all the things.
Yep. All right, so you guys survived. So I want to say well done in Cubicles and Compromises. And I wanted to say thanks to everyone for attending. And also, with this in mind, I want to leave it open for about 15 minutes, and I'm going to monologue. So please start typing your questions now, because we won't start getting your questions for another 30 seconds. So the idea of Cubicles and Compromises is to create a kind of a fun way to handle incident response scenarios that you guys can go through them fairly quickly. And you guys can literally, if you want, you can steal scenarios from some recent breaches that we were joking about. We talked about Uber. We talked about Equifax, right? Like you can recreate that exact incident. Like for Equifax, you can say there's out-of-date, unpatched software on the edge of our environment that an attacker has compromised. What happens next? And you can kind of go through these scenarios.
Marketing says to offer them 20 years of credit reporting.
Yeah, there you go. Problem solved. So we've learned that we need to offer 20 years of credit monitoring and move our company to South Dakota because there's no breach notification laws in this. I've got to meet Christy Nome this Thursday. We're all going to meet her, actually. We are so in trouble now. Not that she has anything to do with South Dakota laws, but anyway.
We're not talking about politics on it.
No, we're
Continue
not. We're
on.
not. But I'm so going to get my butt kicked, I'm sure. So the goal of this is to try to come up with scenarios that you can go through quickly. The randomized, the random dice roll, it's basically throwing randomization so the narrative moves forward or it stops. So if you get into a situation where an incident stops immediately, then it's fine. Just start up another incident and keep moving. That's great, but you want to keep doing this as practice for the organization. And really the biggest thing this is going to pull out is lack of procedures and also communication. Some things that we've noticed in some of our tabletops, a lot of times we'll have one technical person that's answering all of the time. There's that one person. Like, what would you do? Well, I'd go and I'd pull that system's hard drives and I do forensics analysis. Are you trained? Yeah, I'm trained. You have procedures? Yeah, I got procedures. I know what I'm doing. Yeah. And we actually have an inject. If you're doing this as like a dungeon master or an incident master, one of our injects is your lead incident handler has been removed because his family had a baby or he was hit a pandemic. He had a pandemic, he got sick, and he died. And he can no longer answer any questions. And that's cool because if you take that one person that's always answering the questions off the table, it's kind of funny because you start seeing the rest of the group go, hey guys, what would we do? And they all look at that IT person and they're like, huh? Like, no, he can't answer. And I'll be like, and the entire incident goes to hell. So you can do that as an incident master. Now we have some questions I think that are starting to percolate in. So what do we have?
I would like you to respond especially to why incident response is an awful thing for us to do as a company.
There's a couple of reasons. It's not necessarily that I hate it. It's basically has to do with we're a pen testing company. And we realized a long time ago that pen testing skills and incident response skills are really two different sets of skills. There are some rare, precious unicorns out there that enjoy incident response and penetration testing. I would probably fall into that category. But by and large, people who like to break into things. People like to react to incidents also like to just kind of stay in that area. Also, it deals with bench depth. Black Hills Information Security, I think we're up to like 17 or 19 full-time pen testers, and we got a few more other people that can assist as well. And we're booked. We are completely booked with pen tests. And whenever you work an incident, a lot of the incidents are, we want you in Minneapolis in the next 24 hours. And we don't have anybody to give for those types of things. So at one point we had to focus on what we're going to do. And at BHIS we focused on pen testing and also hunt teams, because hunt teams can be done at our leisure and it's a little bit less panicky.
I would also like to add that we don't like to testify in a court of law.
I do. I love it.
Do you?
Yeah, I love it.
Bob
I
says
haven't done it
that's a
years.
pity because no one is as good as you.
Oh, that's so
really
nice.
sweet.
I appreciate that. But that also gets into another
You
thing.
wanna
I'm
be
the
an
only one that
SME,
wants
you
to
wanna
do,
be on the
but I
stand.
can't. Yeah, I love doing that, but I just can't, and
Yeah.
I can't even work incidents. Derek was doing a lot of forensics investigations for us, and I was doing them as well, but whenever I get involved in a forensics investigation, I'm off the table for like 3 weeks, and a whole bunch of other things go to hell. So we might do it more that now that CJ's taking that COO role, but honestly, do what we do best, which is breaking into stuff and doing threat hunting and finding advanced adversaries and networks.
He's
So-
just taking that role now?
Huh?
He's just taking that role now?
He's taking it more and more on.
Fair enough.
We're starting.
I'm
It's
giving
still
up more and more.
startup-ish, so we're all,
Yeah,
we're all
absolutely.
learning the things.
It's kind of
as
like
we
Kent is
go.
a pen tester, systems
Celebrating
administrator,
10 years?
CIO,
Hey,
CTO,
you know what I was thinking though?
director of
We
compliance.
are celebrating 10 years, but
Those are.
most of us have started when it was still really tiny.
Yeah.
So in a way, like we're still
Some
growing.
explosive
As
growth, for
we
sure.
grow, it still
Yeah.
has that startup feeling.
Yeah.
Mike said, do you have a standard list of incidents and follow questions that you use, or at least a starting place for people who want to start doing tabletops? Because so many people said this was awesome and they want to try this out.
Well, and I think that this is whenever we were joking about a book. I think we'd write a very small book like the Red Team Reveal Manual or the Hashcat Manual, like a really, really small book that's just the scenarios. Because if you ever play Dungeons and Dragons, when you go through the games, the Dungeon Master has a full view of absolutely everything, and they have how the narrative is supposed to move from point to point to point, and then they have specific sections that they're supposed to read out. So I was thinking about actually building that and actually writing like 5 or 6 or 10
Okay, it's a good
scenarios.
idea. I probably
We won't have
read
to
it
do the
for
weird
you.
formatting. We won't have to do the weird formatting with the pictures and the screenshots, so it'll be a little bit better.
No screenshots.
Yep. So thank God, right?
Still my beating heart.
Hate
Monospace
screenshots.
text?
Yep. Yep. All right. So next question.
Somebody suggested running down Verizon's data breach report for more incident options, and like we
Mhm.
mentioned, the news is a really good option for
Yeah.
Didn't
scenarios.
they buy a company that's been breached?
Who? Verizon?
Yahoo.
Oh yeah, that one. That's.
Wait, what?
That's
They've
that-
been breached? I'm just kidding.
Does that mean that Verizon's been?
I don't know, but I know it did cut their cost of buying Yahoo by quite a bit.
Yeah,
It's like
sure.
there's don't submit a resume to BHIS with a @yahoo.com.
Or a
Yeah.
doc file.
Yeah, don't just do it
Just
text,
don't.
copy and paste text.
That's
We
all
love
we
the people
want.
that send us resumes and it's nothing but text. Like, don't send us a PDF. It's like, no, no. All right, so what else do we have here?
Most of them, others were just comments. We haven't gotten any other questions, really. Yeah,
All right.
it was good.
So do you guys like the more live format? We're going to try to figure out how to do the slides a little bit different.
It was a little fuzzy in quality, so I'm not sure if that's because it's darker in here.
It
or
also could be the compression that YouTube puts on it too.
Could be. It is wired in, so.
We definitely need to get
didn't
YouTube
put it
compression,
here.
not-
No,
not ours.
this was
Okay.
a separate thought, Jordan.
Sure.
I demand 1080p.
All right.
Can we have a +5 modifier for running Rita?
Yes, you can. I'll give you a +10 modifier for running Rita. Actually, we have a test where they're actually firing it up and they're starting to
Yeah.
detect some of the back doors that we're running.
And they may have been used as an
Yeah.
example how to operate.
Yep. So yes, we do have some.
And I think for the first time I get to see Rita tomorrow.
Not Rita. You can see the full commercial product, the AI Hunt.
Appreciate it.
We're actually demoing AI Hunt. I don't want to. If you guys don't, just leave now if you don't want to hear about AI Hunt. But the product Paul and I have been working on with a whole bunch of people at PHIS is at the point where it's done. We have a release, and we're going to be demonstrating it to Black Hills Information Security tomorrow because they're wondering what the hell we've been doing for the past 2 years. So be on the lookout for that. All right, are we ready to wrap this up?
Someone asked why the slides weren't on GoToWebinar. Well, that was John. He wanted the slides to be a surprise for you, so he wanted to paste them. We could try that though, so yeah. But
Actually,
we
but-
had some positive things on the live format, so.
Yeah, it's just we're gonna have to play with like AV switchers where you can switch from a camera to to a slide or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I think regarding a standard list, no, not exactly. John might.
You have a standard list of incidents and follow-up questions that you use, at least a starting place for people who want to get started. I would start with an email, like an email spear phishing attack, because that's like 95% of the incidents that are out there.
Where
And-
they start.
Absolutely. And then also look at any pen testing class. Like if you look at SANS 560, it has a great progression of how an attack actually goes through, and also so does SANS 504. Never mind. But you can use that as starting places for different types of
Thought
incidents
leader.
as well. Thought leader.
I really enjoyed 504.
Yeah.
with
So
John Strand.
so if you
One of the best
if you
information security classes
ever
ever.
of all time. So I've heard-
504.
Thought leader.
Minions.
Employees.
I'm buying lunch for all of you.
Josh
thank you.
did point out that he
Is it
would
the
be
Chinese
terrified to see how his company would do with this. And I think one of the
Most
things that
would.
makes this really fun is that it brings that kind of scary element that
Yeah.
you need to like show people this is how, like, it's gonna be scary and you're not gonna know
Yeah.
until
I
it's
think-
done.
And I think on that first company we did, they thought they had it in line and ready to go. I mean, they come into the meeting confident that, yeah, we're going to rock
And it
this.
just starts going downhill. Now, the other thing that you can do as an incident master that's a lot of fun is you can completely fudge the rolls. Like if you feel that, I've actually done that. Where I want the story to progress, and they're like, "What do we roll?" You rolled a 2.
you just
And it's
keep-
actually like an 18. I'm like, that sucks. So what now? Oh, well, I guess we'll have to deal with the issue now. So it's kind of cool. All right. So any other questions? Shameless plug. 504.
Shameless. We are full of shame.
Yeah, we are. All right.
Absolutely not
So
shameless.
thank you so much for joining this format. I think we're going to continue doing it. I liked it a lot. It was really, really cool. And we will see you in the next webcast, which I think is hunt teaming tales from the trenches, right? Like weird things that we found doing hunt teams.
Could be.
Yeah,
There's definitely stories in there.
yeah. Some of them are pretty
I'll be
frightening.
sending an email, so if you aren't on our email list, because we did this YouTube live thing, then go to our website and click on contact, and then there's a drop down that says sign up, and you can sign up for our mailing list so you get my emails. I don't spam you, I promise. It's just about our cool stuff that we're doing. So
It's like those YouTube videos that are like, see the button, click subscribe. Click subscribe, please, because it's all about the clicks.
Marketing won't try to sell you anything.
no, I don't. I try not to be schmoozy.
No, I know, right?
All right,
Just
we
weird.
tried 1080. I don't know what's wrong with YouTube. All
All
right,
right, let's go.
bye. See ya.
Later, everybody. How do we actually shut this off? It took us like half an hour to figure out how to turn this on.
I don't think you can.
Brenda's telling us.
It's just going to go forever?
Hey,